Daily Juice, should you have a safety deposit box? This is an interesting question that comes up quite a bit. I personally have never had one, but here's what I have found out and wanted to share with you. Thanks for joining me. My name is Anna, and I hope you guys had a great week. So let's talk about why would you want to have a safety deposit box and what are some features and advantages of it. Okay, first of all, I think if you have valuable items that you want to have special protection for outside of your household, perhaps this is going to be a good place for you to consider storing those valuable items. So let's talk through. Thanks for joining me. Hi, Lisa. Good to have you here. If you guys coming on live, drop something in the chat. That way I know you're here. Okay, so what is actually going to go in the safety deposit box? I would think that personal papers that are important to you, coin collection, jewelry, items that have a value that perhaps you haven't insured with your insurance policy, but you may still want to consider. We'll talk in a minute that maybe perhaps you should still have an insurance policy, even on those items that go in that safety deposit box. Business papers, contracts, and things like that. Now, I want you to consider who is going to have access to the safety deposit box, right? Now, you guys know that safety deposit box is something that you actually go and rent from a bank, right? Or a financial institution. So when you're thinking about what goes in the box, right? Think about that bank has limited hours when you can actually go there and retrieve whatever it is that you need to retrieve. So normally 9 to 5, right? So when you're considering what to put in the safety deposit box, think about whether it's going to be something that you're going to need right away. Is it something you're going to need in the evening or at night? Because if that's the case, you're not going to have access to it if it's sitting at the bank, okay? So that's one thing that kind of makes rational decision. Now, one of the things that I hear people talk about a lot is that they put their estate planning documents, a will, a trust, a durable power of attorney, or advanced healthcare director in the safe deposit box. Now, if you are the only one who has access to that box, it is probably not a good idea because nobody, first of all, may not know you have a safe deposit box. That's number one. Number two, if you designated somebody to take care of your affairs, right? If you have an executor in your will, if you have designated somebody to be in charge of your finances or medical decisions, how is that person going to access your documents in your safety deposit box? That's probably going to be hard to do. So think about those steps, right? Sometimes we just kind of think that because it's at the bank, right, or the financial institution, supposedly it's safe. Now, let's talk about one other side of things, that what the content that go in that deposit box aren't insured. Even though the box is located at the federally insured institution, right? So if you think that when you're putting deposits in your checking and savings accounts at the bank and they have the FDIC insurance, well, guess what? The content of that box do not have that same insurance. So if something were to happen at the bank, it was robbed or there was a fire or earthquake, guess what? If you do not think about getting an additional protection, right, in the form of insurance for the content of your box, then there's no luck. So one of the ways that you can actually do that is through adding in additional riders through your homeowners or renters policy. And you have to specifically list and say what is the content of that box and where it's located and what are you insuring. So don't just assume because it's at the bank, it's insured and it's protected. So that's one point. The other point is who should have access to your safety deposit box. So think about that. Again, going back to my first point where I wanted to figure out what do you actually put in there, the same question is who should have access to it. If you're the only one who owns that safety deposit box, you are the only one who have access to it. So unless there is a specific document, and normally that would be something like a will or durable power of attorney that specifies that a specific person has access to my safety deposit box and that person can get to those papers, then we can have access to it. But if you haven't told anyone, right, and you put those kinds of items in there, you're going to have no luck getting a hold of your items. Now, maybe that's what you want, that's fine, but think about it long term. Now, the other side of this is that you can have other people assigned access to the safe deposit box. So co-owners or accessors, right? They can have options to gain access to the content. Now, that's a decision that you have to make on your own, but just kind of know that that exists. And then obviously the last point is what happens if you die? Or maybe what happens when you die? That's a better point to make. So again, consider what you want for those items that are valuable. Again, remember, just because they're in a safety box, that doesn't mean they have 100% protection from anything. So maybe you don't need to be storing these items in the safety deposit box, and they're better off with the insurance, right? Scheduling them on your insurance, on your homeowner's insurance policy or your renter's policy. Actually, there are also companies who have specific policies outside of home owners and renters that you can purchase to insure content of your box. So think about what are the plans that you have in terms of your heirs, right, getting access to the safe deposit box when you're not here. Is it specifically listed in your estate planning documents? Have you told your attorney? So those are the things that I want you to kind of consider before getting all of your stuff in there. Hi, Lori. Good to have you here. I'm about to wrap up. So should you have a safety deposit box? I think it's a personal question, but if you go ahead and set up one, consider how are you going to get a hold of your items? Do you need frequent access? And if anything were to happen to you, who's going to be the person in charge of retrieving everything? Thanks for tuning in. You guys have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you next week.